Okay. I see the recording on. Very good. Well, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Bloom, and I am one of 3 Associate Client Services Directors here at Alta Regional Center. I've met many of you before. I primarily oversee early start and children's services. And I thought before we get started, maybe we could just do a quick little introduction of Regional Center employees. And so I think I'll go in the screen so that we don't talk over each other. And then if I miss anyone, please shout it out. So let's start with you, John.
Good afternoon, John Decker, the Director of Community Services.
Thank you. Go ahead, Helen.
Helen Neri, Community Services and Supports Manager. At least one of them.
Yeah, okay, very good. Thank you. Let's see, Maurice.
Hi, I was situating my mic. But yeah, I'm Maurice. I am a community services and support specialist, and I'm on Helen's team.
Thank you, Maurice. Your mic sounds great. Adriana.
Hello, everyone. I am Adriana. I'm also a community support specialist with ACRC and work with Helen.
Thank you. All right, let's go with our early start managers. Oh, I hear some feedback. Let's see. Let's go ahead with Adia.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Adia Cunningham. I'm one of 4 client services managers in early start here at Alta.
And Diane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Williams. I am an early start manager with the Regional Center, and I cover Yolo and Sacramento counties.
Okay, Jill.
Good afternoon. I'm Jill Boxler, and I'm in the Roseville office, covering Placer, Nevada, Sutter, Yuba, and Colusa counties.
Thanks, Jill. And Kristen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kristen Lenardi, and I'm also one of the early start client services managers. My team serves Sacramento and El Dorado County.
Thank you. Anyone else from Alta? I think I got everybody. And thank you to those of you who are arriving and putting your name and agency in the chat. That's perfect. I also want to introduce Lynn Arner. She is our project coordinator for this initiative, and you'll get to know her as we go through our presentation today.
Nice to be here, everyone.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can you see the screen, Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So some of you may be aware we had a vendor forum a few months ago, probably back in July. And then from that group, we asked for volunteers for a focus group to really talk more about expanding and enhancing early start services. And really, I mean, we've gathered so many great ideas and information from our focus group, and we shared that out with many of you. And then really a couple weeks later, I was approached by the Department of Developmental Services asking if Alta Regional Center would be interested in piloting an American Rescue Plan Act initiative. And so they said to me, oh, Jennifer, what's the Regional Center working on these days? What are you working on in terms of early start? So I started talking about our focus group and ideas to expand early start, to really expand the awareness of early start services, and talk about ways to serve families who are not being served as they would like to be. So families in remote areas, families who are needing in-person services, families who need supports after our typical working hours. And I started just talking about some of the ideas that we had and looking to advance the profession of early start in general, recognizing that a lot of students in university settings just don't hear about early start. They hear about, oh, you can go get a job in the healthcare field, or you can go to the school district, but they don't know about early start in general. That's just a generality, but that's what we're finding mostly. And so as I was talking, they said to me that this pilot program, developing culturally and linguistically sensitive services, sounded like a really good fit. And we agreed and said that we were interested in piloting this project. And with this, in addition to culturally and linguistically sensitive services, there's a focus on expanding service provider capacity as well. So this is a pilot project. It's been approved by the DDS in the way that we're going to present it today. It's time limited. So we have to expend all of our funds by January 1st, 2024. So we have a little over a year to work on this initiative. We're going to talk more about it. And I wanted you to know for our providers, some of you provide services to other regional center catchment areas and other regional centers. This project is specific to Alta. So if there's incentives or stipends that you're interested in, just know that these are specific to Alta California Regional Center and wouldn't be something that you would get from one of our sister centers at this time. I'm going to turn it over to Lynn.
Hi, everyone. So thought I would tell you a little bit about me. Any of you who took the social emotional training that we did 2 years ago are familiar with me. But if you were not a part of that, then I am Lynn Arner, and I'm an early childhood specialist. And I have been working in early intervention for over 35 years. And so it's quite a passion of mine. And so I am the project coordinator for this ARPA Part C initiative. And so I have that knowledge of early start, but also that passion for the early intervention. And so that's what makes me really excited about getting to be a part of this project. And so I am really looking forward to being able to tell your story and support you in the work that you do, because we're going to need that to be able to draw other people into the field. So we're really looking forward to hearing your stories. So I might be reaching out to you all, just calling and trying to get some information from you. And we may be setting up some interviews and that kind of thing. So my contact information is here in case you guys want to reach out to me. And so this is my email and my cell phone number. So you guys are welcome to reach out to me at any time. So what can we accomplish with this initiative? So through this initiative, we are going to be able to better serve the families in early start. So the goal is serving those culturally and linguistically diverse children and families. So as you could tell by the name of that, that's our real focus and our goal. But we're going to do this by expanding our workforce and attracting students to the field. We're also going to be offering incentives to serve those families in remote areas or underserved areas. And we'll talk more about that today. So we realize that it's difficult to reach those favorable pay rates that you need. And so we hope that some of these initiatives are going to really provide, these incentives are really going to provide you that opportunity to increase your revenue and be able to offer a little bit more to you as an individual working for Alta. And so please note that, actually, sorry, that's for another slide. We moved it, right, Jennifer? Next slide. So there is a shortage of providers. You all are very well aware of that, that we do not have enough providers in early start. And so there are more jobs available than there are providers. And so this shortage is really impacting the families in accessing that critical early learning therapies for their infants and toddlers. And so with the recent changes in the early start eligibility, we are actually anticipating even more of a shortage as more children come in. And so those students we're kind of seeing as key to be able to train them in early start disciplines. So that would be speech and language, pathologists, if you're an occupational therapist, physical therapist, and behaviorist. Those are the ones that we're really kind of keying in on. And this is the note that I wanted to say on the other one, was that we are really not able to include translators, interpreters, or psychologists at this time in this initiative. So just so that you're aware. So we really hope that you will join us in attracting students to choose internships and eventually careers in early start. And so we know that they have lots of different choices for their careers. And as Jennifer said, they may be unaware.
So I was like, oh, you could do
Oh, excuse me. Oh, there we go. She got it.
Okay. And so, they may be unaware of early years. So we'll be spreading that word during this initiative. And so that outreach is really one of our main focuses of this initiative. Next slide. So this outreach is going to be done primarily through job fairs and community events. That's our vision for this. So we'll be outreaching to local universities, colleges, community colleges, and through job fairs to interest undergraduates in the Early Start program and graduates in positions working in Early Start. And so there is an additional incentive that will be given to new hires who are culturally and linguistically diverse. And so that match with an identified language need that we have, we really are trying to make sure that we can find those people. So they can receive a sign-on incentive payment after the completion of 6 months of actively providing a minimum of 60 purchase of service hours. And so feel free to reach out to your alma mater, to colleges that you know of. Let us know about any job fairs happening in your community. We really want to make sure that we're partnering and making sure that we're reaching people. So some colleges do have internship fairs, which we would love to know about. And so if your alma mater is having one, reach out to me and let me know. So I'll be exploring all of these opportunities.
Thank you, Lynn. I wanted to add on the incentive to hire culturally and linguistically diverse staff. That $2,000 incentive would go to the agency, so to the vendor. And then you could do with that what you'd like. You could offer a hiring bonus to someone with a portion of those funds, or there's some criteria here just talking about how we have 50 slots available.
Right.
And there's a claim form that we have for that already for you that we will make sure everyone receives.
Yeah, and we will definitely keep in touch with you about how those slots are going, and whether there are more opportunities or they're filling up. We'll keep in touch with you. So how can you help? So I talked about really wanting to partner. So we do hope that you're going to partner with us in these efforts to get more interns and to provide interest in working for Early Start. So please let us know of any of those community events that would be valuable for us to attend to attract interns and Early Start providers. And also our outreach activities are also going to include showcasing the different therapists, the difference that you can make in the work that you do. And so we need all of you to share your passion about the work that you do, so that we can actually get that documented and be able to share that with others. So some of you will be interviewed about the difference therapists can make in the early intervention, and other stories that you might have about the influence that that being going from a student into a career in Early Start, what that has done. for you. And we also need your help with identifying families. So we talked about some of those community events. We want to have not only one of the providers come with us, but also a family. And so if you have families that you have identified who can share their powerful personal stories about how they have been positively impacted by Early Start, we would love to know about those families as well. So the incentives. You can see here that the one side is the $11,000 for paid internships. And so we plan to incentivize current and new vendors to take on interns. And it's an effort to advance the Early Start profession using the paid internship program model. And so some of you have mentioned that it's difficult to entice interns to work with you and help you. And so this program includes that $11,000 for each intern. And so our hope is that this increase that this incentive will really be able to increase the availability of a provider network that reflects that cultural and linguistic diversity that we're looking for that exists in our community. So the internship period can be a trial for both the employer and the intern to see if this is a good match. Is it a good fit to have them become a permanent employee. And then there's additional incentives and so actually let me look at that. So you have, there are 40 slots that will be available for those internships. And those ACRC will review those hours and the rate on the claim form. And so you have some flexibility in determining how that money will be used. And so we want to pre-approve those internships, and I will keep in touch with you about how those are going, how the internships are going, and how that's working for you. And then we'll make agreements, partnerships with universities so that we can have them getting their certifications and meeting those requirements that all of you know about so well. So the other stipends, you can see that there are categories here. So we really want to make sure that there is that availability for the families. And so the remote areas don't get served as well. We also have some underserved areas that we would like to target. And then the in-person, we know that the telehealth and the remote can be effective, but families really want that in person. And so we're also incentivizing that. And then the service delivery time during non-working hours. So this would be before 8:30 a.m. or after 4:30 p.m. and on weekends. And so if you are serving families at that time, there's an additional stipend for that. And then the last one is that culturally and linguistically diverse population that we've been talking about. And so there's also an additional stipend for that. So I can show you on the next slide how that will be broken down. So if you had one of those criteria listed on the last slide, it would be a $200 stipend. If it's two criteria, it would be $350. And if there's three or more, it's a $600 stipend. So the maximum number per month would be for each client, 2 stipends per month. And so that we will use our funding until it gets exhausted. But those incentives, those stipends are available to all of you. And so we put together what we think, this is probably not an all-inclusive list, but we were listing our remote and underserved areas. And so you can kind of look over this and see, where are you serving families? And it is those remote and underserved areas that we are targeting. And so the families in these areas aren't getting their needs met. And so we realize that there are a lot of barriers to serving these families. There's the travel time. There's your lost time if you get there and they're not there, they've canceled. If there's, the mileage that it takes to go there. So there's a lot of barriers that we know are there. And so that's why these incentives are being provided to really support you in serving the families in the remote and the underserved areas. So you'll receive that money for serving families in these areas. And you can reach out to us if you have any questions about any areas that may not be listed here. We have some zip codes in some towns. And if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to reach out to us. So this is those non-working hours that I was saying. We really want to make sure families have been reporting to us that one of the challenges that they face in navigating and receiving early start services is finding time to access those services for their children outside of their work hours. Both parents are working and they can't access that. So the single and working parents both will have difficulty with this. And so, particularly when they're, hourly wage earners and they can't just take off time. And so we are trying to make sure that Monday through Friday, that the earlier, so you can see the asterisk here, before 8 a.m. and after 4:30 p.m., those qualify as non-working hours, and then of course weekends as well. And then I mentioned earlier too about the remote or the telehealth services. Those can be effective, but this model is not conducive to all families. And so many families are seeking that in-person therapy for their child and support and parent coaching in that child's natural environment, like Part C wants us to do. So that is one of the other emphasis that we have.
Okay.
Jennifer?
I'm happy to talk about this slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And Lynn, while I'm talking about this, I'm thinking of a slide that I think I might have missed, and it talks about what we hope to achieve in this initiative. And so if you have a chance to find it, maybe we could end with that one.
It was
okay. So yes, thank you for your attention to all of the different stipends and the specifics. We try to make it as simple as possible. We do have claim forms for the various criteria that Lynn has reviewed. And so there will be stipend claim forms. So I'm happy to share just an example of what one might look like. Let me do that. So I think I need to, I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to reshare after I open this claim form. These are all going to be fillable forms. This one I have right now is not a fillable form, but it will be, and I'll be sure that you all get a copy of this. So here's an example of a vendor stipend claim form. So pretty self-explanatory here. You would put your vendor name and number, the contact person, email address, client information here. And then you would just put like a little X. There would be a drop down so you could say, okay, it was a remote area and in person. I mean, that kind of goes, it goes without saying that those two come hand in hand. Or maybe you served someone on a Saturday. So you would put the checkbox here. And then you would let us know how many categories you qualified for in that month. This is a monthly claim form. And right here, it tells you who to email the claim sheet to. So Locke is in our accounting department. I met with him yesterday. He'll be prepared to receive these claim forms from all of you, and this is effective today. So this is the day that we're rolling everything out. And then you would put your name and sign it. So that's an example of one of the claim forms. Let me stop sharing that one. And I'll share an additional.
It's slide
This
3 was the one.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
This is a worksheet to help you determine how you would like to roll out the internship piece. So this one is a little more complex. The worksheet is something that you would do one time, and then you would fill out a monthly claim form thereafter. Here it comes. So there are instructions here, and I'd be happy to go over it with you individually, or if I can't answer the technical questions, I know who can. And we would go through, and you would just indicate the intern's name, their school name, internship goal. That might just be a brief statement from the student, or as in accordance with the guidelines from the university. Your contact information as the vendor. This might be redundant, but not all vendor names are the same as this information in this box here. So please forgive us on that, but you could just copy paste to fill that information out. This is intern start date, hours per week. So let's say it's 12 hours per week. You could say that you're going to pay them $17 an hour, let's say. You're probably not going to offer health or dental benefits, maybe workers' comp. This is my example from our accounting guy yesterday. He said, let's just say 55 cents. I don't know how that's calculated, but that's an example. And then it would show you here what your totally hourly rate would be to provide the internship. So over the course of the internship, it may or may not add up to the $11,000 that you will get as a vendor. But that's okay. It's up to you to determine how you would like to execute the agreement. And then there's some information here, how internships will not exceed $11,000. And this is your worksheet, if you will. And then from this, there's a claim form. So I know that's a lot in the moment. I just wanted to give you a brief overview so you could see what it looks like. And let me go back to this. Anyway, so I'll be sure that everyone has copies of the fillable forms, and all of the claim forms are emailed to the same person, and the email address is on each of the forms. We would like to see the claim forms submitted monthly. What I don't want to have happen is, like, let's say you waited 6 months to submit your claim forms, but the pilot ran out of funds, and then that would be terrible. So please be diligent on ensuring that you're submitting those forms monthly. And we have also here that we would like to receive all of the claims no later than December 10th of 2023, because as I shared earlier, the funds must be expended completely by December 31st of 2023. And yeah, I think that covers that slide. I saw a hand up, but I just want to wait a minute in case I don't want to forget anything else. Let's see, we have our question slide, but Lynn, you mentioned something about the other. Oh, I think you're muted. It happens.
You had said that you wanted to reiterate what we can accomplish, and that's slide 3 if you wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you.
And I saw in the chat that you guys asked, could you have this PowerPoint? Yes, we will share this with you so you have this detail.
Okay.
And I think we answered the other questions that are in the chat, but
Okay.
those stipends are, as you saw, that they are the, depends on how many categories that you're serving as to which, how much those stipends will be. And then for each client, it is only the 2 per month. And so
Thank you,
we
Lynn.
have those limits on those, but
thank you for drawing my attention back to this particular slide. What I wanted to say here is that This pilot, while it is time limited, we do have the potential to, if we're successful, or I should say when we're successful, the Department of Developmental Services has talked about, their goal is to see what can be replicated statewide and ongoing. So I'd really like to be able to say, hey, this is what we did. This is how many additional clients we serve. This is how many more individuals we brought into the profession of early start. And so I just wanted to make sure that everyone kind of understood, like, the overarching purpose is really like we're the guinea pigs here, and we have an opportunity to really showcase our successes.
Yeah, so it is exciting because it starts with us, but it could grow to be statewide, and that would be really exciting.
Yeah.
So, so we will go on this venture together. So we do have
Okay.
some questions.
Thank
Emily
you.
is raising her hand, I see, and also
Right. I have it on the chat. I'm not sure if it came through appropriately, but we're just trying to clarify, because I saw there's 1, 2, or 3+ criteria. If you have 2 different clients and each one has 1 criteria, does that add up to 350? Or
so
is it
you would
400
have
because they're each 200?
200 for each one of those clients that you're serving.
So if we can only have 2 stipends per client, why is there a 3+ arena?
You might have more categories. So you might be serving somebody remotely, but you also speak that family's language, and you are, you are serving in person. That would be 3 different categories that you're able to meet with that client. And then we're just saying twice a month you could actually be billing for
It's
that.
no more than 2 claims per month per client.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
That makes more sense. Thank you very much. I was like, I'm
In fact,
missing
I'm going to
something.
change that on the PowerPoint to say two claims
Yeah.
There you
per
go.
month per client, because some of our friends aren't here today, and I would want that to be clear.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
you.
And
Yeah,
then
and if you
Renee-
define what a claim means, that would be, is a claim like 1 date of service? Is a claim 4 dates of service? What does claim mean to you?
To me, a claim is each time you serve a client, that's a claim, and it's just 2 claims, maximum of 2 claims per month per client. So we would expect, if you're providing speech therapy 4 times a month, let's say, in a remote area in person, that's $350, which means for 1 child, you could claim $700 for that month. Yeah.
Rennie, you had a question too.
Yeah, mine's a little more about the internship because I had to come a little bit late. So I may have missed some information, but
No, that's fine.
I'll speak for physical therapy because I'm a licensed physical therapist.
Mhm.
Our PT interns are students, and what I'm not sure of is if the intern funding reimbursement is for students. And then the other side of it is that once they graduate, they can't be interns, at least for physical therapy. They're licensed clinicians that we now are mentoring, so that we would have already vetted to hire. And then, so can you clarify, does a student count as an intern would be my first question.
So a student would be an intern, yes. That is who
And
we're
then
talking
have you checked with the boards to make sure we can pay our interns? Because what I'm not sure of is historically, at least for physical therapy, I think speech is a little different because during the Cs, they can be paid employees. But for physical therapy and occupational therapy, those 2 disciplines, it's like a clinical rotation. And I think they can get paid, but I'm not actually sure because they're not like if we're billing Medi-Cal and some of the funds are coming from DDS via Medi-Cal, there may be like legal reasons why we can't actually pay them. So do you know, have you checked with the OT and the PT board on that?
So no.
I just don't know, like I don't, it's just
So I was telling Jennifer, I was talking to a professor who coordinates their OT students getting their certification, and that yes, they are able to get this paid internship. They're doing their certification. So the vendor has to be somebody who has they're certified and are licensed, and that they have that experience, at least 1 year of supervisory experience in order for that college. So it's going to vary from college to college, from program to program, as to what the qualifications are. And so I will be reaching out to a lot of the programs and trying to find out what's available, so that if you guys say, hey, I want an intern, I can try and do that matching. But also, like I had said during the presentation, you have gone through these programs and you may have some connections, and you may already know of, programs that we need to connect with. And so please let me know about those. If you, I see Emily again. Yeah, you do have some.
I was just going to say for speech, because you were talking to PT, we don't have paid internships either.
Right.
So Sac State is who gives us our most of our SLP interns, but then there's also the SLPA interns that come from there's a Sac State one, and there's American River College. So I would just kind of look into those too, because I was wondering the same thing. I don't think we're allowed to. So I'd like to know.
Well, I can say that ASHA, our licensing board for speech pathology, does not prohibit paying for interns.
Awesome.
So
okay.
So, and could it be worded as a stipend, like an internship stipend,
exactly.
Or something,
Right.
I'm wondering if that has any bearing on the way that it's received. And it's not required that you do, but I know that when we had that you pay the interns, but I remember when we had our focus group, some of you talked about just some of your internal costs. So this is hoping that this will help offset some of that for you too. And maybe there's additional insurance that you need to get. Or I know that sometimes there's agreements with the universities that cover those pieces, but it's just really meant to be a way to incentivize you as providers to take on interns, and providing a stipend to that intern. That would be a perk for everybody.
And to clarify, that stipend wasn't just to the student, right? It's to the agency. And how the agency chooses to pass it on to the student is up to the agency.
Exactly.
Okay, that was my next question. Thank you, Christina. I was like, are we the ones getting the stipend, or are you paying the student directly?
Okay. No, you would be paying the student and giving them the stipend.
And so are we, not that I wouldn't want to, but are we required to give them the stipend, or we can use it to offset the cost of training the student? Because sort of like we're already required to do that professionally. I think that's where, I think for me, I so appreciate it. And I think it's so great that the regional center is coming up with these ideas and supporting us to bring more clinicians into our field. So I wanna make sure I'm clear on that. But I can't speak for any of the other groups, but we sort of have an unspoken expectation as an agency that provides PT, OT, and speech from our partners that provide the education to take students. So that's a lot of practices sort of like already have a regular student pool that they get students from. So it's really just tapping into what many of us may already be doing, right?
Well, so some of you are doing that, and some people are like you said, it's like an unspoken, this is what we're supposed to do. Are people doing it? We want to make sure that that's happening, and the more the better to come into our field. And so how do we encourage that and get them having early start experience, that they are then encouraged to stay with early start and become employees? So that's the goal, the end goal for all of this. And so, yes, you're right, Rennie, it may be that you are going to use this for your own, I do have these costs that I incur and these hours that I incur because I have to support the student, that you can use some of that money to help you as well. So it's not that just that it automatically goes to the student. And Jennifer mentioned some other ideas about how that might be spent. So we would just.
Sorry, that's super helpful because we would look at very often the students are required to be students, right? They have to be students, they have to do their internships. It's after their internships because of salary that becomes an issue. Because many of us are smaller vendors that can't compete with some of the larger vendors. So we've tossed around, this actually may enable us to do it. We've tossed around the idea of finding monies to pay part of the tuition, and in return, we would employ the person. So we may delay, like we may say, well, if you do an intern with us and then come work for us, we'll give you X amount of dollars towards your student loans. And that would come out of the money that we receive from their internship. So it's a way to then say, and then you work for us for years, which is actually how you would guarantee the students to stay in the field. Because just because they got paid during their internship or we got paid during their internship doesn't necessarily get the buy-in. It's that next piece. So I'm very appreciative that we can manage that money, how we see might benefit the field and our area, which is cool.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I'm looking in the chat here. Let me just kind of scroll up and scroll back down and see. We've got all of our introductions. Thank you. Okay, someone's, Emily, checking. You mean 60 POS hours per month, right? No, I think we mean POS hours in general.
So that is that they would need to complete those 60 POS so that they could get the $2,000. So it is over that next 6-month period that they would need to. So that is that $2,000. And that
I think we've answered.
Clear.
Yeah. There's a question over the period of, okay, blank to 2024. So from now until December 31st, 2023, because we have to expend everything by January 1st, 2024.
So for you, really December 10th, because that's when we would need to have all of your
that's true.
Claim forms submitted. Yeah.
Parameters of what defines an internship. I think that would be based on the agreement with the university. I know, like the professor that Lynn spoke with today, their program their obligation or their commitment is 12 weeks. So someone else might be a semester. So I think it really depends upon the agreement and fulfilling those requirements between the university and you as the provider. Yes, you're going to have a copy. Okay. Is this only for in-person therapy? No. In-person is one of the stipend areas, but others, let's see, providing services after non-working hours, that could be remote. It could be in person. You could be providing services to a family in Punjabi. That doesn't have to be in person. So the answer is no, it's not only for in-person. Do in-person services include assessment and treatment? Yes. A claim is a single session? Yes. Heidi, does this include community college students in the fast track program?
And I believe yes, that we do want the community college students as well as the state college and other university students, because we want to again be encouraging them in this field. And so they could have an internship. It may be shorter, it may be different, but that they could also, you could have an intern from a community college.
Thank you. Okay, I think we hit the questions. Very nice conversation. Any other hands up? Let's see. I saw another question.
ABA services are, if ABA services are provided.
Yes, please. If ABA services are provided on the weekend, but not in a remote area, provided in Sacramento, yes.
Yes, so weekends, yes.
Yes, I'm going to give you, we're going to send you the PowerPoint and then all of the claim forms. The claim forms, I'll check to see if those are made fillable. All I had was just the framework for those, but probably by now they're ready to be, let's see, ready to get going. If the internship started in October, can we add that one? So Rennie, you have someone who just started?
We have students all the time.
Okay.
So like we constantly, like we have students year round in each department. So that was my, like we can do it for January because we know usually a year out when our students are coming.
Okay. Let me get back to you on that one because I wouldn't want you to not, I mean, if it's possible, I want it to happen. I'll just say that. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, anything from our community services department or client services managers? Anything to add?
So I see two more questions again.
For CSS, because this grant actually also falls under my my service codes, and so the contact people for this early start grant in CSS is going to be Adriana Morgia and Maurice Connor, but they are both new, so I will be helping them with any questions you have. There's less, it doesn't look like there's a lot for CSS to do, but our specialist will definitely be working with Lynn if, you know, for anything that involves community services.
Thank you, Helen. I appreciate that.
All right.
Yeah. For submitting the claims, I would just say we would like to see them monthly. So if it were me, I would say maybe about the last day of the month or the first day of the following month. On the claim form, it talks about the time frame. I think it says payment will be issued within 13 days, I want to say. And when does this start? It starts now. And thank you, Maurice.
Yeah.
So some of you, you might remember Christina Suji. She took a job with the Department of Developmental Services. So she's no longer with Alta. And so that's why you don't see her on the screen today. But wanted to let you all know she has moved along, but we feel like we have a partner on the other side now. Christina, you have, or let's see, your hand's up. There it is.
I'm just wondering who took over for her. Oh, I'm sorry. Christina said it. I'm sorry. My hand was up too. Go ahead, Christina. I talked too much.
That's okay. So I just wanted to clarify that this is basically effective immediately. And in terms of like interns or new hires, are you going to give us a benchmark date of when that is? Because much like Rennie said, like we've got a constant flow of people, and we definitely had staff and interns start in October. So that would be helpful to know. And that just basically as you're going to give us a document that kind of like drills down into your definitions a little bit further. So we know like exactly how we're supposed to be defining these things. And so that we're ensuring that we're like billing accurately, or just if we have questions, like reach out.
So go on, Jennifer.
No, go ahead, Lynn.
So yes, we will definitely try to give you, we'll try and make it clearer as to what those definitions are. Try to make sure that everybody's clear on that. But when you do submit that claim form, that is when we have the opportunity to say, did this qualify? What was, who is this client, like, and then also
Okay.
for the internships, those kind of things. So that's why we say reach out with any questions, because we really do want to make this work. So
Okay, so hypothetically, when we're submitting our billing at the end of November, we could be also submitting a bunch of these claims at the same time, and we anticipate that that's probably going to be a conversation point, and we're going to talk more about it and what that is, and there'll probably be some defining and refining as the process goes along.
Yes, thank you, Christina. Yeah, and those claim forms would accompany a POS, a purchase of service that's already, an authorization that's already on the system. So we'll just, that's why we're asking for the authorization number on there so that we can just cross-check it and go, yep, check the box, we're good. And, I'm sure you all already know this, but we haven't done this before. It's new for us too. So one thing I can always commit to is getting back with you with an answer. It might not be like in that second, but if I say I'll call you tomorrow, you can bet I'm going to call you tomorrow. So, and same goes for Lynn. We want, like she said, we want this to be easy and smooth. Yeah, no tricks.
Awesome. That's great. This is really great. Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, you're welcome. You all inspired us, really.
Right.
It all started with those conversations we had over the summer, and then DDS calling in October, and then getting approved in October. So here we are. Any other hands up? I hope I'm not missing anybody.
Emily's just asking who took over for Christina.
Is it Maurice or Adriana? I'm not sure.
So Maurice says that would be.
Jen, the primary person for this grant is going to be Adriana.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think part of the confusing part too is that we're actually hiring additional for EI staff and community services. So we're actually going to be filling Christina's position with 2 people.
Ooh.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big shoes to fill.
So let's see, the commitment here, or my to-dos, are to get those claim forms to all of you, a copy of the PowerPoint. I think we talked about posting this on our website as well, or, we want to spread the word. So this is not a secret. This is for sharing. So please share with your teams. This is recorded. So we're going to post the recording as well and make sure that all of our early start providers who aren't here today have an opportunity to listen and ask questions. And like I mentioned, our service coordinators too. So if there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Great to
everyone.
see you all. Thanks for your enthusiasm.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for all your work on this. We appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye, everyone. You want to stop recording, or did you?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Oh, goodness. Let's see.